Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Diablo 4 video. In this one, we're going to talk about a very specific build guide, if you will. It is a Bone Mage, Bone Spear, Casting, Summoner build. Bit of a mix. Little cool one. Basically, we're going to have Bone Mages that are every 6th attack going to cast our Bone Spears. Now, this is not going to be a meta build as of the current season, Season 4 at the time of this recording. However, the build is performing very well, much better than I thought it would be, and I'm going to show you a tier 61 pit depth approach here in the gameplay footage. Outside of that, I'm actually having a lot of fun playing this build. I've been doing some Uber bosses and doing everything else in the game with ease, but again, it will not be able to compete with builds like Shadow Summoner or the Golem build in the current state of content, or Bone Spirit, and this is again for Season 4. Now, if you're watching this video at a later stage, make sure that you check out the written guide linked in the descriptions down below, because things might have changed in future seasons as of this recording. Essentially, everything in the current season is abusing the approach of using Elixir of Holy Bolt. This is going to be completely demolishing everything, allowing even this build that is not a meta build to do significantly higher types of content. I've been doing this build on stream right now for quite some time, and we've been showing this tier and a couple tiers higher even with the use of not running the Elixir of Holy Bolt. So I'm going to see how this performs. Some bosses are easier than others, but I will be bringing out another flask so we can go for something like attack speed, we can go for strike chance, or even life modifiers. It's all kind of up to you how you want to do it. So I'm going to take a life just to show you not scaling damage output, since this build is not going to be a high damage dealing build such as the Shadow Minions or the Necromancer. Again, this is a Pit 61. This is how you get the Neath Iron material for the last upgrade of your Master Crafting. Essentially, the breaking point of the highest tier content you can run. Anything higher than this will only give you increased quantity of drops. And I'm going to walk you through the playstyle quite simply. Essentially, you are going to have a lot of essence regeneration and recovery, allowing you to consistently be spamming your Bone Spears. Now, this will not entirely cover you, but what you'll also be doing is making sure that the raised skeleton is consistently keeping your skeletons alive, but also making sure that you have the priest buff bar here that will heal them, because your Bone Mages will actually be taking a lot of damage. Now, I'm not going to go through the details too much of the gear, because it's still changing a little bit, and I'll refer to the written guide in the descriptions below, and more talk about the details of the aspects, powers that I've chosen to run, and how the build is played. Essentially, we're going to be using Army of the Dead, which is very, very good for offensive layers, but it does make the build a little squishier compared to Bone Storm approach. We're looking at high crit scaling with obviously a high focus of attack speed to trigger the cast of the Bone Spear from our Bone Mages. This is also combined with the approach of running Ring of Mendel. And the reason we're doing this is because we're already having scaling modifiers designed to hit every 6 attacks. So in my opinion, Mendel made perfect sense to play with. Now, you don't have to do this. You can go for other multipliers, but I really like that approach. The play style is very simple and very... Oh, Jesus. I actually might die here. Nice little lock here. So the playstyle is very simple. You'd like to play this the way Shadow Minions are being played, and that is to send your Golem in, and whilst you're having your Golem there, you're going in, I'm running a Bone version. He will be taunting and generating corpses via the first option here. What then happens is I have a free reign of going into corpse tendrils like this, and then corpse tendrils on top of that, and everything will be pulled in. And then I can just bombard the entire pack with Bone Spears and also have corpses for my minions. That's essentially how I'll be playing this build moving forward. Now, I did die, so let's see if we can wrap this up and speed up the little process for some gameplay footage. And I'll talk about some other details before going through gear and whatnot that I have on my current version of the build. Essentially, we are basically just scaling a ton of attack speed, crit damage, and a little bit of resource generation. And the aspect powers are very much in line with that focus. As you can see, we're all about just making sure that they're grouped up. Make sure that the Bone Mages are getting healed by the priest, and then pull them in with your corpse tendrils when needed. And that's basically the playstyle. Again, the build is not a meta build, but it does bring some pretty nice performance. As you can see here, we're pulling this in. and all of these enemies are grouped up and they will die. Another thing to point out is that we're not running the Holy Bolt of Elixir right now. And the reason for that is to just try to show you guys the baseline performance of this build. Obviously, with it, all of the content we're currently running would be significantly easier. But where's the point? What's the point in showing you guys something that is broken that every build in the game can do? And the boss is going to be a bit rough since we're not running a Holy Bolt of Elixir, of course. And the only real problem is obviously how bad the Lilith Reckless is going to be. So we got the one with the 3 following flames. That's fine. Not the highest tier, but it's also the first tier where you're going to start getting Leaf Iron. Without Holy Bolt, I mean, the damage is not terrible. There's some ads there. If we had some Holy Bolt, he would be dead already. And that's it. Let's see what else we get from her. We get the explosion. Yes, we do. Stay away from that. Don't want to die. Ooh, almost died to that one, didn't even see it. And there you go, tier 61. Pit cleared with quite a lot of ease. Again, I want to show you the combination. The Golem has the first activation. So when I do that, it's going to spawn corpses. This allows me to consume for the priest if I wanted to keep them healed with the priest. It also allows me to pop this corpse tendril, so everything on the screen will be pulled in for me to then bombard with bone spears on top of a huge pack of enemies. Not to mention that he will actually be taunting them. Skeletons, we're currently running Reapers. In the current Season 4, there's a bug allowing us to get the cooldown recovery at the moment. We'll see when that gets fixed, but the corpse regeneration is very important to sustain the actual buff of the priest, and also corpse tendrils. We're running Bone Mages with the every 6 attack, your Bone Mage cast Bone Splinters or Bone Spear if it's on your action bar. This is how we have them every 6 attack casting our Bone Spear. This is also why I'm running Ring of Mendel, allowing you to have the approach of them every 6 attack, also exploding for a ton of damage. Now, there's a couple of other items that I'd like to talk about. Now, originally, I went, instead of a Blood Getter, I ran a Tyrael's Might. This is possible to do. I actually determined that running a legendary one provided me with both better defenses, somehow, and better offensive scaling. So I would recommend running a legendary over Tyrael's personally. This is how we had 27,000 HP. It was significantly lower with the Tyrael's approach. However, it is important that you do at least have 1 armor roll, or sorry, 2 flat armor rolls and 1% armor somewhere. Worst case, you might need 2% armors so that you can play around whether or not you want to or need to run diamond jewelries in your gear, or if you want to run skulls to get the armor cap of 9,230. If you don't have this, then Blood Getter will have to be replaced with Juggernaut's aspect, which will cover your entire armor need. So essentially, you want to focus your gearing towards hitting that armor cap so that you can move away from Juggernaut to get Blood Getter, which is both scaling the increased damage output, but also healing yourself. Helmet, I'm currently running a Harlequin's Crest. This was actually worse damage for clearing and slightly better for survivability and for bossing. The difference is not that big, actually, surprisingly, compared to a Deathless Visage, because Deathless Visage echoes on your Bone Spear also applies to your Mage Skeleton's Bone Spears as well. So basically, you'll run Deathless Visage till you're able to either drop or craft a Harlequin's Crest Shako through the use of your Resplendent Spark. That's what I did. So basically, the armor, I would say we'd go for Intelligence, Life, and Flat Armor. And the tempering should be something like Total Armor and Corpse Tendrils. Obviously, the written guide will have this in detail in case I change any of this. We'll have the Splintering on the Doom Gauntlets here. Splintering is for the Bone Spears. We're running Ranks to Bone Spear, Attack Speed, Crit Strike Chance. Tempering should be Corpse Tendril Size again with Bone Critical Strike. But as you can see here, I actually hit my upgraded the Corpse Tendril, so I already have 95.5% Corpse Tendrils with a cap is 100. So instead of having a third one, which you might need if you're running triple bad or double bad rolls, Corpse Tendrils temperings, you might want to add another one. So in my pants, which actually failed, you want to have percent armor and then Corpse Tendril size if needed. If not, you can literally have whatever you feel like in there, like the Crepifice size or anything you feel like you would use. It's just a free choice at that point. So I'm going to run 3 in case you get bad rolls. But armor will be needed. The gear on the pants is going to be Intelligence, Life, and then again flat armor to help reach that cap without Juggernaut. Now, you don't need a second percent armor with higher scaling later, but early on you might need to. It's all about hitting that cap, right? And if you don't need the flat armor, you could replace this with something like ranks to Skelly Mage Mastery, which is really, really good, but it's very tight on the armor. That's just why it's not recommended right now. We're running hard on Bone Seer for damage reduction. On the boots, we're running Occult Dominion for extra minions. We're going to focus on essence per second so that we can cast our Bone Spear effectively. Intelligence and movement speed, of course. And we're going to run crowd control duration for those corpse tendrils, as well as increased movement speed. Weapon. A wand is okay to generate more corpses to hewed flesh and whatnot. I think that a sword would actually be a better choice, but I did have a greater affix crit damage here, so that's why I kept this. You want to have intelligence, life, and crit strike damage. And tempering should be bone critical strike damage, as well as bone spear projectiles cast twice, which should be the focus of our mastercrafting. Running a serration power here. Offhand is very special as well. We're going to run maximum resource with intelligence and resource cost reduction. Tempering, again, bone crit damage with bone spear being cast twice chance. Power being a reanimation. We're doing this on a focus for the cooldown reduction. Amulets, I have a rather poor amulet in this case. So essentially, you want to run one with maximum resources. And you want to have ranks to Evulsion, which is a high priority. And then you also want to have ranks to Compound Fracture. In my case, I didn't get that. I do instead have Fueled by Death. Tempering, bone crit strike damage, and resource cost reduction. That's going to be the same for the ring as well, in terms of tempering. Whereas the ring, we're running for critical strike chance. We're running for resource cost reduction, but it's very important that we have a lucky hit with a % chance to make enemies vulnerable, since Bone Spear is not going to cover that for us like it used to do. And that kind of covers the gear in general. Obviously, the Ring of Mendel after that. That's basically the gear, and in terms of skill tree, we're running a very simple setup. I'm going to have all this in detail in the written guide, of course. We're running maxed out for Imperfectly Balanced, 2 points only in Hewed Flesh. Max out Bone Spear, pick up the Paranormal since we're applying Vulnerable through the gear. No Blood Mist, only 1 point in Grim Harvest. We don't really generate essence that way. Max out Fueled by Death since we are actually scaling that damage. Max out Death's Embrace, Amplify, and of course scaling Mage Mastery. We're not scaling the Skeletal Warrior Mastery. There's not enough points for it. 1 point to Crepify to get the cooldown from Abhorrent. 1 point Corpse Tendrils with Vulnerable in case we want to start to fight out with vulnerable to all enemies before our lucky hits will apply that. So value point to Necrotic Carapace for that extra 45. Maxing out the Golem Mastery. Bonded in Essence to keep the guys alive. Inspiring Leader, Hellbent Commander, and Ossified Essence. 1 point in Serration, and maxing out Compound and Evulsion. Now, I will say this, though, for the ultimate skill, we actually only went for Army of the Dead with 1 point and no extra. I would have liked to go Supreme, but the idea with this build is not to lose your minions. So if they start doing that, you're going to have some issues. You kind of want to push that on. And getting the second one felt a little bit so. So the more important part of Army of the Dead has to do with the unyielding commander we have on our ring and the necklace being Frenzy Dead for the attack speed. So the unyielding is giving us the possibility of our minions having 100% increased damage, and they take 90% reduced damage. And that kind of covers that approach of them staying alive in a better way. Outside of the skill tree, the Paragon board, I'm just going to walk through it real quick because everything is going to be in detail in the written guide and I might make changes. First board, we're running an Amplify glyph running up on the left-hand side. Second board, we're going to be picking up the Bone Graft and then moving up on the top right corner to get ourselves an Essence glyph. On the left-hand side, we're taking another legendary node called Cult Leader, which we're going to have Dead Racer for the damage reduction to our minions. And then above this, we're again getting another legendary node being Flesh Eater, in which we put Corporeal. And we're going to do a little quick pathing through the Bloodbath board just to get the Exploit glyph. Just to run up here so that we can pick up yet another legendary node being Scent of Death, in which we're going to have the Control glyph. So that's basically the glyph setup and how it's going to be run. Again, all of these details will be listed in the written guide linked in the descriptions below. Outside of that, I do want to emphasize that the current time of the recording is Season 4, Loot Reborn, and during the season, this build is not a meta build, but it is doing the endgame content, including the possibility of doing the highest tier, the highest tier of content that provides Neath Iron, which starts at 61. Anything above this all the way up is just getting you a higher quantity of that, and there's actually no new content to beat out after that. So that's why I decided to make a guide of this build despite not being meta. So when it comes to the helmet, like I mentioned before, if you run something like a Deathless Visage, we have helmets like this that gives you the Bone Spear leaves behind an echo. This is how you would start the build off before you get a Shako in the late game stage. You never have to focus on switching to a Shako. The Deathless Visage is crazy good. I did like the defensive layer added to it when I started doing pits level 70 or level 80 plus with this build. Before that, Deathless Visage would have been a great addition. And that's it. Hope you guys like this kind of non-meta, a little fun build to play. I've been having a lot of fun playing this. I'm going to start making a Thorns build next, and hope you guys will enjoy that. But let me know what you guys feel about the build and what you guys are playing in the current season of Loot Reborn in Diablo 4 in the comments down below. I'll catch you guys in the next one. So till then, stay safe. Keep rocking.